Walk into any program review, and you'll find a massive, color-coded spreadsheet with 40 rows of scored probabilities. It looks rigorous. It feels like control. But under intense pressure, the weight of tracking all those cells is exactly what causes schedules to collapse. This article from Vinay Vijay Raut calls this out directly. He points out that these registers are rarely prevention tools. They are liability shields. They exist so that when a delay hits, you can point to row 14 and say, "We logged this." But an unspoken risk sitting quietly in a spreadsheet is just a delay with a paper trail. To fix this, we have to stop treating administration as a strategy. We are going to strip that bloated spreadsheet down to its studs and replace it with a 90-second verbal pitch using a framework called the FLAIR model. Real risk management is not about updating cells in a vacuum. It requires stepping into a room and forcing an uncomfortable conversation before a schedule delay becomes locked in. Let's look at the environment you're likely working in right now, a typical cluttered project dashboard overflowing with data. To find the real threats, we have to cut through that noise. The first step is filtering out the extremes. Hide everything marked green because it is safe. Then hide everything marked red. We want to isolate your top 2 amber risks. This chart shows your window of influence over a risk. We focus on amber because by the time a risk turns red, your ability to alter the outcome has usually closed. The leverage lives entirely in the amber stage. Wait too long and your influence hits 0. Managers worry early escalation looks incompetent, but bringing up a threat early shows sharp judgment and builds leadership trust. Now that we have our amber risks, we apply the L in FLAIR, localize the trigger. Broad categories give you nowhere to act. You need specific, measurable events. Look at this comparison. Scope creep is a vague worry, but client requests additional firmware certification after Phase 1 sign-off is an exact, localized trigger. You can measure it. A properly localized trigger must function like a binary switch. Anyone on your team should be able to look at the situation and snap it to either yes, it has happened, or no, it has not. Precision forces action. Pinning down the exact event that causes the delay turns a lingering worry into a sharp, clear alert. A sharp alert only works if it reaches the right person. We need to stop looking at data fields and start looking at the actual personnel who hold the power to unblock your schedule. This brings us to the A in FLAIR. Attach a decision. A simple status update does nothing. You must attach a specific ask to the risk. This flow chart shows what happens when you route a critical risk to a general distribution list like integration team. It becomes everyone's problem, which means nobody makes a call. Assign it to a single owner, so the alert lands entirely on Sarah Jenkins. But Sarah needs to know what to do. If your update doesn't explicitly request to cut scope, shift the timeline, or add resources, it fails. Once you have your ask, you move to the R and F in FLAIR. Rehearse the escalation and flag it verbally. You cannot rely on people reading your updates. You have to stand up and use your voice in a high-stakes environment. Escalating verbally ensures a risk is actually heard by the people who can change the outcome. To do this without hesitation, memorize this 90-second rehearsal formula. If this exact trigger happens, it costs this specific impact. I need this clear decision from this exact person. An unspoken risk sitting quietly in a document is an unmanaged risk. You have to say it out loud for it to count. Now that you know how to escalate the real threats, we have to clean up the rest of the board. Look back at the remaining bulk of your project spreadsheet. The final E in the FLAIR setup stands for expire the register. It is time to remove the administrative bloat. You need to act ruthlessly here. That means retiring or archiving anything that has sat completely untouched for 30 days. Silence does not mean the risk is under control. It means the data is dead weight. Removing that dead weight simplifies the tool. With the clutter gone, you can see the active threats that require your immediate attention. Finally, abandon your standard weekly status checks. Match your review cadence to the velocity of the risk itself. Check your fast-moving external dependencies daily and push the slow-moving soft risks to a monthly review. A minimal, actively managed trigger list will always outperform a comprehensive 40-tab liability log. You have completed the setup. By following these steps, you've moved past simple record keeping and are now focusing on the decisions that keep the schedule on track. Here is the finalized checklist of actions. Take these exact steps into your next leadership meeting. Out of all these steps, this is your immediate priority. Pick your top 2 amber risks and say them out loud. Don't wait for red. So here is your challenge. Find one peer right now who is sitting in silence on a medium risk. Teach them this framework, help them speak up, and stop letting paperwork theater derail your schedules.